After my last project with the ballasting along here, it got me to think about what I'm going to do next, and I think it was staring me in the face. This area here, I would like to make this more scenic, and I was thinking about it and I thought, do you know what, that would lend itself to having a building down here for a certain usage, and that's going to be my next project. Hello and welcome back to Woodhill Park. After relaying my track in this area, it got me thinking about the right hand siding that just doesn't do much. It went underneath the baseboard, which I've got my heritage yard built on, and originally it was just going to be a storage yard. I've now turned it into pretty much my workbench. But in saying that, I thought I would take all the track up except for one long length. And what I'm going to do is put a coal train into it and build a coal depot. So I got merry-go-round wagons sitting underneath the baseboard that will come out from a sort of a coal mine area where they're being loaded. Now this line possibly in the future could be extended round to the other side of the layout, so I can have a loop that it comes through it, but at present I've just got enough to just take up a train backed up into it, and I'm going to build a building, a coal sort of depot, sort of coal mine building behind, and build a hopper in front so that the train's being loaded and then being pulled from underneath it slowly and down this siding and then onto the main line. I have been looking at pictures of various areas where this used to go on, and I thought this possibly will lend itself to that sort of operation. Being it a bit close to a tunnel, it's always a compromise on the layout, as you well know, so things are too close to each other really, but ignoring the tunnel, I think it will be a good thing to do to take up this area on the right, as it's right up against the beams and I won't be doing anything with the beams, so all I can do is just hide the beams a little bit, maybe with buildings or whatever, but it will just finish this right hand corner off that looks pretty unsightly when you look down the line. It'll just give it a purpose and that's what I want to do. And I've made a start on some of the buildings, or I made a start on the hopper actually, and I'll show you the bits I've been working with. As per usual, I work with odds and ends and Foamex board, which is one of my favourite materials to work with, and it's a total scratch build, just looking at photos and sort of using bits and pieces I've got in my scrap bin really, but I do enjoy building stuff like this. Well, these were my sort of starting building blocks, you might say. These are what started me off. I spent ages looking for something I could build a hopper out of, and wondering if I had a funnel somewhere, because I really wanted a square topped funnel and whatever, and I thought, nah, I haven't got anything like that. And then I come across this, which one of my daughters gave me, which is just a container that had some liqueur chocolates in it. Excuse me. Tripping over my words again. Some liqueur chocolates in it, and they got eaten for Christmas or whatever, and she had 2 of these. One I've actually turned into what I'm about to show you, and this one, and I kept it, and I thought, I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but it looks handy, and it became framework for what I wanted to build. And this is Foamex board and a bit of, if I've got it round here, a bit of Slater's cladding, and various other bits and pieces, including a girder bridge that I wanted the ironwork for. So I had a few girder sides, Pico girder sides. And I didn't film it because I'm always not confident it's going to come out very well, but I somehow managed to soldier through most of the time and come up with something, and this is how far I've got at the moment. It's as you can see, the container's inside, and I've built cladding round it with Foamex board, and the hoppers underneath, and I've used the ironwork from the bridges, and I'm quite pleased with that. That's come out how I envisaged it really, and what I need to do now is go and spray it. I've also found a building that I could put on top from something else I had, and that sits neatly on top and looks somewhat like you would have seen, where the conveyor belt would have gone up the side, so I've got to work out what I'm going to do with this, and the coal would have been dropped into the hopper from the top, and obviously there was a housing at the top where they could maintain the conveyor belt and the hopper and keep the machinery running undercover. I mean, I've never been in one of these buildings. I've never even sort of seen one other than photos. But, you know, I had to work out all the heights and everything, and the train fits nicely underneath that. So my next stage is to go and spray it in some undercoat, and I do fancy it being a blue colour like I've seen in photos. I've been looking at one particular colliery, and I don't know what colliery it is because the photo doesn't give you any information, but I think there was a picture on Key Model World that on their website that I came across, and there wasn't too many pictures of this sort of operation, but this picture showed the train being loaded up with a hopper and the buildings in the background, and then coming up a loop and onto the main line again. So that's what I've been studying and working to, really. That and my imagination as usual. So if I get down to track level, you'll see what I'm trying to achieve. And my idea is to have some buildings at the background, you know, great big sort of mining buildings at the background, which will take up this area and hide some of the rafters. I may even put something here, a building around this, just so when you're at track level you don't see the beams, and gives me an excuse to have something here, maybe some sort of building to do with a way bridge or something like that, not sure. now back from the shed after spraying it, and I think it's come out okay. I've still got to work out what supports I'm going to have for the conveyor belt tube, what goes up the side. At the moment I just made it out of a tube that you get a drill in, just a plastic tube when you get a long serious drill, and I sort of rubbed it down, undercoated it and sprayed it in the same colour, but it needs some supports, so I've got to work out what I'm going to do there. As when you look in pictures of these conveyor belt, they're sort of held with like pylons, so I don't know what to make them out of. That'll be interesting, scratching around trying to find something. But the actual coal tower, I suppose you would call it, has come out okay. I'm quite pleased with that. The colour's a little bit garish at the moment, but believe it or not, the one in the picture I've been looking at is a blue similar to this, and once it's weathered I think it might look okay. As I said, I'm going to have a building in the background with similar colour, maybe just a modular square building, and that will sit behind it as sort of backing scenery for it. And then I propose to have sort of piles of coal in this area, as it's just a sort of dumping ground with a bit of greenery and weathering, as it's sort of wasteland come coal tip sort of thing. And I'll have to finish off the layout behind it as well. At the moment I've just got a plastic stone wall that I've just put there just to blank off the underneath of the layout to a certain degree. But once the building goes over here, and there's a little cutout in the building for the wagons to go through, you won't really see what's going on behind. So the wagons will appear that they've been drawn through the industrial area and through the coal hopper. That's the plan anyway. It's all full of compromises, as it's all a bit crushed in, but hopefully it'll make this area more interesting. We've come up with an idea just to cover the beam a little bit. It will make it sort of hemmed in a bit more, but it will take the look of the beam away a bit more, and it's only something I've had hanging around for ages and I didn't know what to do with it. I think it's a Bachmann Scenecraft water tower, but it's part of a bigger sort of build, and I only picked up this water tower cheap at a toy fair, and I've never really known where to put it, but I've adapted it to go around the beam. So in days gone by, like I've got a steam engine on the layout, there would have been a watering point and a water tower close to this development. So maybe all the equipment's been taken away for scrap except for the water tower, which is too much trouble to bother with, and it's just been left there. So what I've done is opened up this opening. What was here was just an arch, and it's designed to go on the back of something. I don't know what it is, so it's part of a bigger build, as I said. But what I've done is cut this out to allow the beam to go right up here, and hopefully it'll be of use. So I'll take it over and put it on, and you'll see what I mean. I can't get it back any further than that. That's the maximum, because it butts up against the wood at the bottom. But I think there's just enough room to make it believable. And if I do a shot from this angle, you'll see what I mean as I zoom in. These water towers would have been quite tight to the railway anyway, and there would have been a water crane in front of it, probably, which is now overgrown. I did think about putting a broken down old looking water crane in front, but I don't know, I'll leave that like that for the moment. It just disguises a beam, so when I film down like that, eventually when I've built the rest of the coal mine behind and the buildings, it'll be a complete scene and you won't see the beam unless I zoom right out. Well, I've been playing about with it some more, and I thought I'd add some greenery next to the water tower, as I had some bushes that I pre-made and they were looking for a home. So for now, unless I find something better, I've just put them in place just to take your eye away from the lower part of the beam. Also, I had a tree I think I picked up from, I think it was Getz. They were in the bargain bucket and they were Hornby trees, and it's not half bad really. I think it's a reasonably good tree, so I put that in front as well to detract from the obvious. But that's not too bad, I think. Right, as they say, I've made an executive decision between me and myself, and I'm gonna trim the cliff face back, as it looks really silly that it's so close to the loco. Even though the loco passes it and all the wagons, it looks extremely close, and I'm not sure this would have been very realistic really. So I'm going to carve this back, and to do it I'm going to use a rather sharp sort of foam knife, possibly my Japanese razor saw, and possibly just a craft knife. So wish me luck. I don't like butchering my layout, but sometimes you have to, and hopefully this will be for the best. I'm just going to trim it back probably about maybe ½ an inch, just to give some more clearance. I can't go mad and sort of trim it back too far because it'll just ruin the look of the tunnel, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. Right, here goes nothing, as I say. It's going to be difficult to film, so I'm going to go in about there, I think. Just got to cut through the plaster at the top, then underneath should be the foam. I'm probably going to just have to go with where the saw takes me, because you can't steer it very well. It's not looking too bad actually. Oh, excuse me, runny nose. Still cold in the loft. And a foam knife, see if I can get that in there. It's like cutting a cake. I don't fancy eating this for Christmas. That's it, it's coming away. That's one good thing making your sort of scenery out of insulation foam. It's quite easy to cut once you break through the icing on the top, which is the plaster. I'm just going to trim that off and then see what it's like for clearance. Possibly lose that bit there. Now maybe that's going to become a retaining wall. I'm not sure. See how I play it. Maybe a bit of a retaining wall there. Might be the way to go if I cut it back. A bit of walling I've already put in there which I'm not sure I'm going to keep, just for effect at the moment. Yeah, so maybe I can get some walling in there. Anyway, I'm going to try it for clearances, see what it looks like. Hopefully I haven't damaged too much of the foreground. Yeah, pleased with how that's come out. Right, let's have a look what it looks like on camera so you guys can see it, and I'll look down the side, see what the gap's like. You can't really see it from here. It looks like there's plenty of gap until you put something like a retaining wall against it. Maybe I can find something a bit thinner. I'm not sure where to go with a retaining wall. Maybe I can do it a bit of a sheer cliff face that's granite so it wouldn't collapse. A strong stone maybe, and then just put some sculptor mould on it and turn it into a bit of a flat rock face that's been carved away. I've got to think on that. Now, I've never tried this before, but I'm using my logic and things quite often work out alright, because you do use PVA glue as a good sort of base to put sort of sand and cement on. What it does, it secures the surface that you're putting whatever on to it, and it bonds with it. As I'm going to put some sculptor mould on here, but it's going to be a very thin layer because I don't want it too thick, because obviously I'll be back where I started, but I'm a bit wary that it won't take to the foam. So what I've done is covered it with neat PVA glue. Now this shouldn't interfere with the sculptor mould because it's water based as well, but when it all goes off it should give a better adherence to this side of the hillside, in theory. And you know, that's what modelling is, giving things a try really. And I'm going to go and get the sculptor mould and do this area and try and make it a nice slim sort of cutaway cliff face and rough it up so it looks like it's been chiselled away, and when I paint it hopefully I can make it look like granite. If you've never used it before, sculptor mould is an absolutely brilliant product, and I like it more than the plaster webbing that you can buy, as it's more sort of adjustable, if you know what I mean. Probably not the best word. You can get it on places like Amazon. As it says, it's for sculpting things more, but it's perfect for model railways. And you just put a small amount of this, which is a bit like tissue paper and plaster, into a pot and add some water, and you just want it to be like cottage cheese once you mix it up. So that's what I'm going to go and do. Yeah, this is what it looks like, just fluffy. And once you add water it becomes a really good material to work with. Just need some water. Right, drop of water. Just add the water slowly. so you don't go past the consistency that you want. I've used this all over my layout, and one of the main uses was on the embankment I did. So if you look back in my history, you'll see the big embankment project, I think I called it, and I used a lot of this, and it's superb to work with. Get in there. So almost there actually. Got a reasonable time to work with it, but it does start drying reasonably quick. But then it takes an age to dry, especially this time of year. But it does dry on the surface, and you can paint it after a day or two. But it takes a long while to dry solid. So if I get the other side of the beam, I'll tip it over and you can see what it's like really. As I said, like cottage cheese. Right, camera in the right place, and I'm going to start applying it at the bottom, I think, and then work up. As I said, when all this dries, hopefully there'll be an extra bond to hold it in place. Lovely stuff to work with. It's one of my favourite scenery materials to work with. Wish they'd had this when I was a kid, instead of screwed up newspaper and wallpaper paste. Find after a while it starts to stiffen and it gets harder to work with, so when it starts doing that you might want to hurry up and finish off, otherwise you drag the surface. As it's plaster, you can sort of modify it later a bit. You can rub some of it off in places where you don't want it. Well, that's looking good. And I'm going to leave it rough like that. You can wait for it to dry almost, and just before it's finished drying, add water to the surface and then rub it smooth with your fingers or anything like that, and you can get a nice smooth finish should you want it. But if it's a rock face, it wants to be rough, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm going with that. I think that looks good, and it doesn't encroach on the line too much, whereas if I put a retaining wall in there, that would have come out further and then starts to make it pointless me cutting the hillside away. So that's going to be granite rock when I finish, a bit of grey paint and variable colours in it, just to give it a three-dimensional look. So I'll leave that to dry now, and I didn't have too much left, but it's very easy to make up another little batch rather than do way too much. Right, I'm going to let that dry now. It's going to take some time to dry, so I can't really carry on at the moment, so I'll be back with another episode on how this build is going. Thanks for watching, and welcome to all the new subscribers and all the nice comments that everybody has left. I do appreciate them, and I do read through them all and try and reply to them all, and they make interesting reading, especially some of your ideas are worth sort of implementing sometimes. Anyway, I'll leave you a bit of footage from my last project where I did the track adjustments and just show you the final result as trains are passing the workmen on the track. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.